I do really believe 100% from every part of me that everyone has the capacity to be able to do the things that they want and not to be held back by the mental baggage that's in our head that we want to push through.
Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. In each episode, we get down and personal with people who go after the things they want to make all their wildest dreams come true. Join us as we unveil and dissect a formula for what it takes to do the thing. Here is your host, Stacey Lauren.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Sometimes you meet people who go against the grain to do the thing. Today's guest embodies that mindset. She's an incredibly determined high achiever with an uncanny way of finding hacks and using them to her advantage. This guest is an attorney, and she also happens to own the firm. Her work is her passion. She enjoys serving clients who share her same out-of-the-box personality. And as much as she loves what she does, she still refuses to put business before life. She truly defines happiness. Whenever an opportunity arises, she finds a way to make it happen. From hacking college courses to making tuition more affordable to buying a condo with a trick she learned, she does whatever it takes to reach her goals. She even went after her dreams of attending art school, took a 2-year sabbatical, and she was able to do this and still work remotely. Whether representing clients in court, traveling to Florence to learn about art, or teaching as a professor, she always finds new ways to do the thing. Please welcome Kayla to the show. Hey, Kayla, how's it going?
It's going well.
Good. I'm so excited to have you on because we've talked, where I know we're working together now, where you're helping me with something. And so I'm so excited to just dive in more about you and your story and all that good stuff.
Okay. I'm excited to answer questions.
Okay, good. Well, let's start off. And if you could just tell the listeners more about you, your story and your background.
Okay. Well, I am from a tiny, tiny town of like 220 people. And I moved to the big city of San Diego for university, actually. And I fell in love and ended up staying here. In the meantime, somewhere along the lines, I worked in biotech and then fell into IP law, intellectual property law, and went to law school. And through a really wild set of circumstances, ended up owning and running my own law firm. So that in between, I've traveled all around the world. I've lived in Italy and went to art school. I've done just a whole bunch of wacky things that don't fit with this persona of lawyer, but it's been an adventure and I love every second of it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you have such a 360 degree scope of just everything that I've seen from you. So I'm not surprised with the Italy thing. That sounds super cool.
It was a huge adventure getting there. Actually, when I went to university, I went to UCSD and I put myself through school. And at UCSD, they kept advertising that you could study abroad at this art school in Italy if you were an artist. And I grabbed a brochure and looked at it and really, really had my heart set on it because I had always loved painting. I had done art shows in the past, but the cost just was, for a 19-year-old who was putting herself through college, kind of exorbitant. And it was always in the back of my mind that, I want to go study abroad. I want to do what all these other people are doing. And life continued on. I went to law school. I started practicing law. And then one year I had to attend 14 weddings. And I remember looking at my boyfriend at the time and going, we've traveled and spent like $7,000 going to all these people's weddings. And I could have gone to art school for that. And he's like, well, why don't you? And I thought, you know what? He's right. Why don't I go to art school? I mean, I'm pretty sure I can run my part of the practice remotely. I can take meetings on Zoom. So I went to my law partner and told him, hey, think I'm kind of having burnout from going to all these weddings. And I feel a little bit of, FOMO about missing my opportunity to go to art school. What do you think about letting me work remote and going to art school during the day in Florence? And my partner was like, I think that's the best idea ever. You need to go do it.
Oh, awesome.
And I packed I got in, I packed my stuff up and I actually didn't tell any of my clients because I just figured I'd be doing the same work. And I went to art school in Florence and had the time of my life. And I don't think any of my clients really suspected that I was doing all the work from Italy. But
that's so cool because, like, number one, I feel like you got a really good risk assessment by just the why don't you? And it's like, I wonder, is that something you've used again, that why don't you statement that he had given you that day?
Yeah, I think one of the great things about having really solid friendships or relationships is that they kind of are the voice in the back of your head. You're thinking, why don't I do this? But you just need one person to go, yeah, why don't you do it? And then that's like opens the floodgates for you. You're like, yeah, no, you're right. Okay, that voice I wish I could self-justify it, but sometimes you still need a trusted friend who's got your back to be like, no, you should do it for sure.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that because it's so true. It's so easy to get stuck in the whole like normal, what is that? Prescribed pattern of life, and then to actually just be able to have that complete pattern interrupt while you're going through all that stuff. So the other thing that's really cool is how you, like, some people would have just gotten stuck in the whole, I can't do it because my law partner is dependent on me, and the fact that you went out of that box and you've had that courage to be able to say, well, I don't know, I'm putting words in your mouth right now, but like, what is the worst that could happen? They would just say, no, you can't go to Italy, right? Is that kind of what, when you actually made that decision to talk to your law partner about going?
Well, to be honest, my law partner is the person that would have done exactly what I did. Like I said, I had a very non-traditional legal career because of where I chose to work. And I'm very grateful that I did. And I purposely chose to work with the law firm that I got in with after law school because they were so flexible and because they were so understanding. My law partner, when I had been practicing for about 2 years, so he was my boss, pulled me into his office and said, hey, let's get happy hour tonight. And I was like, that's sudden. Usually we plan things further in advance. So he went, got me a drink, and then said, I'm feeling burnout. I am going to take a year or two off practicing law and move to Bali.
Oh, wow.
And then he told me, you can either get a job at a big law firm or you can try to run my practice while I'm living in Bali. And I know it's a lot because you've only been practicing 2 years, but I really need to do this for me. And he did that when I was 2 years into the practice. And of course I said, yeah, I don't want to go to a big law firm where I have to work like 90 hours a week. I will do my best to run the practice. And I'll fall on my face 50 times, but you know what? Like, I think I can do it. So when he came back from Bali, we had a really good relationship with each other. And I felt and still feel incredibly lucky to have worked with several attorneys whose life came before business. And so when I went to him and said, Dana, I'm feeling burnout from going to all these weddings, emotional burnout, all that, I knew that he would encourage me. So I wasn't very nervous about asking him. I was kind of just looking for him to be like, okay, here's the game plan. You know, we can work these hours and XYZ, I'll check your email for you on hours where you're not, where it's off. So I feel pretty blessed, to be honest, about that. So I wasn't afraid that he'd say no.
Yeah, it's amazing. You had this like unbelievable mentor, basically, that kind of showed you the way in terms of how to balance life with law.
Every day I wake up and I like am so grateful to have the people in my life that I do. And I told a friend like that's also a lawyer, but she's at a big firm. I told her, I feel really lucky to have met these people. And she's like, you weren't lucky, you chose them. And I think that's true. The traditional path is really to go out of law school, to go into a big law firm and put in your hours. And then, you know, you make partner, or maybe you go start your own firm after putting in, 8 to 10 years of work. But that just sounded miserable to me. So I picked something a bit non-traditional, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So how did you get the confidence to run his law firm while he was in Bali?
That is a good question. I don't know. It was confidence, maybe misguided, but really, really what it was is just knowing I really, really, really did not want to work in a big law firm and work those hours and be in that kind of environment where you have to wear a suit and you're there until 2 a.m. if there's a trial, or you're there on the weekends because everyone expects you to meet your billable hour requirement. That just sounded to me so much worse than the possibility of me failing at running his practice.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like, it's so great when I get to talk to people that, and this isn't that yet because you eventually started your business, but where their businesses literally started just from the pain of like some experience that they had or didn't want to have. And I love that you like pretty much you got to see, this is probably the moment that you got to see that you could run it, just by having that pain of what it would have been if you weren't going to run it.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say it's almost a fluke opportunity that I started that only 2 years in. And I'm not going to lie, it was really hard. There were definitely nights where I spent the night in the office or, worked till 2 or 3 a.m, trying to figure things out for myself. That now those tasks would take me 15 minutes, but back then, you're still learning the ropes. Especially about admin stuff, to be honest. It's the admin stuff that drives me nuts about running the practice of law. But it was all really worth it. And I'm really, really thankful for him to put that trust in me to be able to do that. And I hope someday I can pay it back to someone I mentor as well.
Yeah, that's amazing when you get to see the full cycle come around. I'm sure you probably have and don't even know it, where someone's been, I know you personally, so I could imagine that people are feeling it without maybe even you knowing what you do.
I really hope so, because the practice of law gets a really bad rap. And I think a lot of lawyers get a really bad rap of working long hours or kind of being jerks, or not having a life, or even having to put in 60 to 90 hour work weeks before they can reap the rewards of partnership or lots of, financial freedom. And I really hope to share that you don't need to be miserable. And the practice of law can be really fun and inspiring and great. it really depends on where you work and what you select to do in your career.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said this, because this hasn't come up yet. So like, what advice, and let's think about it generally, right? Because I think that's a really good point, is if someone's going to work anywhere, it's not just where am I going to get a job? It would be where would I want to be that's supporting me in the best way? Like, what would be your suggestions to the person that's in that situation and looking at different things?
My suggestion is, there are lots of ways to achieve your dream job. And so you have to be flexible in seeing multiple opportunities to achieve like a quote unquote dream job. A lot of people think, oh, it is going to be, I'm a lawyer, so I'll use a law example. I want to be a prosecutor. That is my dream job. I want to be the DA. But then they work in the DA's office, and maybe they have a bad experience with their supervisor, and maybe their colleagues aren't very friendly. And even though it's quote unquote their dream job, because they define their dream job as being a DA, it actually makes them miserable. And then they end up thinking they made the wrong choice. Sometimes, like for me, I pick the job based on the people I work with, because to me, that's what really defines my happiness. Is, do I like the people I work with? Do they make me feel happy? And I can find reward in something menial like drafting a contract if the people I'm working with are encouraging, fun, supportive. I have clients who are really awesome and I like what they're doing. Then even though that might not, drafting a contract might not be my favorite thing in the world, it becomes a lot of fun because of the people I surround myself with. So dream job's got a lot of meanings. And I think looking outside the box to find it is way more helpful than just saying, I want to be this type of thing. That's the only job that's going to make me happy.
Yeah, I love that. It's just having that flexible thinking and not just calling out a whole career based on one or two experiences.
Yeah, I had to work in a biotech lab when I got out of undergrad because of the recession. And that was really the only companies that were hiring in San Diego were biotech startups. And I remember thinking, what? This is not my dream job. I wanted to go into finance because I had an econ degree. And this is so disappointing. I'm just like sitting here ordering lab supplies and occasionally like pipetting stuff. But the people I worked with in that startup were the most amazing people I've ever met in the world. Creative thinkers, brilliant, kind, funny. And it made this kind of mundane job just phenomenal. And I'm so glad I took it. They're still my great friends. And they inspired me to actually, become an intellectual property attorney. But
oh wow.
I'm glad I took it. Like if I would have just been like, nope, I'm doing finance, I'm only doing finance, I don't know if I would have had as good of an experience as I did in the lab.
Yeah. And it's so cool when you get to, as we get older, you get to see just how every experience leads to the next. And if you didn't have the one experience, you'd be on this whole other path. I just think that always just like blows my mind on how that works.
Yeah. And I love it. I love when the unexpected turns out to be the best, like one of the best things that makes you smile.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Okay. So I definitely want to talk about how you opened your law firm and all of that. But before we get there, you mentioned you put yourself through school. So do you mind kind of talking about that a little bit?
Sure. That is a dark part of my life. So I went to UCSD and the regents raised tuition, I think 2 or 3 times when I was in school. And I am always on the hunt for a good hack to save money. So for the first couple of years, I just had 2 jobs and I worked almost 40 hours and tried to squeeze all the required classes into lunch breaks or breaks in between my job. So I'd work at this lab in the morning, and then I'd have some free time to take classes. And then after 10 o'clock at night, I'd go work in the biomedical library. And I slept maybe 4 or 5 hours on the weekdays, and scrambled to get all my work done. And it was really stressful. And then my second summer, I realized that if you crammed all, and I don't know if you can still do this, the UCs might have closed this loophole, but you could cram a whole bunch of classes into the summer session, and you would be eligible for grants that you weren't eligible for during the school year. And then you could drop down to part-time status during the school year and save money that way. So I kind of played this game where I piled up a lot of classes during the summer because they were effectively cheaper. And then I dropped down to part-time status during the full year. But I was always really tired, and I did not have the traditional college experience. We'll just put it that way. My college was just me taking buses to different jobs and frantically trying to do work while I was running in between classes. So.
Yeah. And isn't it like, how do you think that, I mean, it's like, gosh, by you having to put that much work into like getting your education and, like the value that you got out of that, I'm sure had to be unbelievable compared to someone that might've had it given to them. No offense to people that have had to pay, that didn't have to pay for their college, but I do think there is that difference of, you really had to work for it, like literally,
Yeah, I think it made law school. It definitely made work in the lab and then law school so much easier, because in law school, I only had one job. And then I went to law school, and I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm actually sleeping. I can actually study. Like, this is what college must have been like for most people. This is great. This is easy. And I remember thinking the same thing about work. It's like, what? I just have to work. That's all I have to worry about. Okay, I've got this. So there's definitely an upside to having that really intense college experience. I also graduated early from UCSD to save money, but the downside is I didn't get to take those fun classes. I missed out on a lot of social events. And one thing I've really noticed is back in the day, you could take unpaid internships. Now in California, they're not legal. You have to pay your intern or give them credit. But back then, everyone was taking unpaid internships, and I just couldn't afford to do that. And then when I got to law school, and even in some job interviews, they would ask me why I didn't have any volunteer work or any internship experience. And it was so frustrating because I'm like, I wanted to just, shake my fist and go, are you kidding? I was poor. I could not take an unpaid job.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of downsides of how I did school, but I think it made me, I guess, the old cliche, it made me stronger.
Yeah. Well, and you got a killer work ethic from it, and then you learned these life hacks, which I think even went into when you talked to your law partner, about, you almost like built up that muscle of being able to take these risks. And even though it wasn't a huge risk by asking him, it still was something that you did. Some people wouldn't even do that,
Yeah, I think when you have it really, when you have to think outside the box when you have to think outside the box really at a younger age, then it trains you to always think outside the box. So I'm always going to be thinking of non-traditional solutions to a problem, right? Like, okay, how do I make myself, how do I buy a law firm? Okay, well, you could do this traditional way where you join a big firm and you buy into this partnership. Or there's this hack where, you join a small law firm and then the guy goes on sabbatical and somehow you take his practice. But there is always if you had to think outside the box, it takes over the rest of your life. So you're always finding or looking for those little hacks.
Yeah, it's like you've retrained your brain to be able to do it naturally without even thinking about it now.
Yeah, that's how I bought my first duplex is the hack of I was like, well, there's got to be a way to do this. I'm going to research this. Oh, okay. There's this FHA with a 203K loan that'll let me do a complete renovation gut job on a house for like only 3.5% down. You're always thinking about these like little hacks if you had to hack it through your early life.
Yeah, that's really cool about the duplex. And now you've opened yourself up to real estate too by learning, like using that hack skill, essentially.
Yes. And that's also something my law partner kind of guided me on. When I was telling him I wanted to invest in property, he opened the door up to me about thinking of investment property. But the only thing I could really afford at the time were these really rundown homes. And so I dug deeper and he let me use him as a sounding board as well. But I told him about this 203K loan. I'm like, hey, Dana, what do you think about this? What do you think about using the FHA to buy a multi-family unit, but then doing a renovation on it through this FHA program? It's going to be a lot of red tape, but I think I can navigate it given that I'm a lawyer. And he's like, I think you should do it. If there's a way to get $2 million house for $700,000, then it's worth investing the research into figuring out how you can hack it. So,
dang, well, we're talking about that later because I want to hear all about that hack. So let's talk about your practice. So how did that start?
How did I buy the practice, or why did I join the firm originally?
Yeah. How did you? So yeah, actually now I'm hearing what you said earlier where you bought it. So let's talk about that. So how did you kind of get into your business that you're in now?
I had worked with my main partner, the one that took the sabbatical. His name's Dana, for shoot since 2013. And Dana is an amazing person, but he's an entrepreneur at heart. So during COVID, we were just chugging along. He had made me a partner. And then one day he shoots me an email and he's like, I really want to pursue other business ventures and I want to spend less time working at the firm. And by that point, he didn't have a ton of hours anyway. So we just started talking about me buying him out of the practice at that point, because it made sense for me. I really love the practice of law. I love the law. I think it's interesting. I think it's fun. And I love my clients. I think they're all brilliant. Dana loves being an entrepreneur, thinking about different things, investing in different businesses. His brain's always running a mile a minute, and he's always got, a hand in every pot, right? So we came up with a plan for me to buy him out during COVID. And I did. And so far it's been working great. And I think both of us are very happy because we're both doing what we love. I love the law, and I also love having 100% control over things. So that's nice. And he has the flexibility now to go pursue a bunch of other business ventures that he's interested in.
Yeah. So was there any hesitation when you decided to buy him out, or was it a clear choice since you had already had experience running while he was in Bali, and now you've had more experience just in law in general?
I am not going to lie. There was a push-pull. The push was, yes, full control. This is amazing. The pull of like, heck no was, oh my God, you could fall on your face. If you have a bad year, there's no one to back you up. Are you sure you can do this? Everyone's going to look at you like you're crazy. You know, are you sure you want to take over these bank accounts? Are you sure you want this debt? Are you sure you want to take over the lease? Da, 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 da. I mean, there's all these like huge, I would say huge risks in owning your own business. As I'm sure you know, but there's a ton of rewards too. And I honestly just made a judgment call of, well, if I fall on my face, I fall on my face. It can't be any worse than working 2 jobs and trying to go to college full time. Yeah. So I might as well give it a shot. And I'm glad I did. The firm's doing very well, and it hasn't been as bad as the bad moments haven't even been as bad as I in my head thought they would be. So is that what happened when you said, if I fall on my face, I fall on my face? Did you go through scenarios of like what that would look like? Yeah. Of like, okay. So the biggest thing stressing me out wasn't me making money. Like, I'm like, well, I'm fine. I have this rental, I have my rental property, whatever. It was, I have a paralegal and law clerks, and they need to be paid. So I looked at the books and realized what I had to do to make sure they were paid every month. And I'm like, as long as I can make this amount, I'm fine. And cover rent and the other expenses. So I came up with my bottom line, and the bottom line wasn't that scary. So that's really what gave me the confidence to be like, oh, okay, you know what? I don't think I'm going to fall on my face because I can make this bottom line happen. And maybe it'll be tough for me for a couple months, but it'll be worth it. Yeah, that's really great. So I'm writing down your formula for doing the thing as we're talking. Do you mind if we go through it? Yes, please. Okay, cool. So, and it's cool because you've helped me define a few, and then I've added one since we've been talking, like one that I haven't had yet, which is surprising that I haven't had it. So number one is surrounding yourself with people, like-minded people. That seems like it's something that you do in order to do the thing. Even with your, when I think about your dream job and like knowing how important it was for you to be surrounded by people that, light you up essentially. 100%. The people I'm around make my life amazing, and I'm lucky. And then the one that I'm most excited about, because I've had this as a piece of the formula, but you've helped to expand it so much more than I've had in any interview. So thank you for this. So I had it down as being open-minded and just not having any kind of ego, or rigidity when you're doing things. And it seems like that's been a huge part of you doing the thing, but we've expanded it with like out of the box thinking, your life hacks, and just really being resourceful in that way, and just going outside of what was the word you used? Unconventional thinking. Yeah. And I think that's huge when I think about that out of the box thinking, and then also being able to like find these life hacks with doing the thing, right? Because you can't just go this ordinary route if you really want to achieve great results. No, I think I see so many of my friends get in their head that there's only one path or one way to do something. And so when that doesn't happen, when there's a roadblock, like they don't pass a test, or I don't know, some family event comes up where they can't, that path is blocked to them. They don't explore other options or really think critically about how to get around, how to still make what they want happen, even though that path is blocked. And I'll just sit there and think about it. Like, all right, what can I do? Can I move this? Or is there somebody I can talk to get here? Is there some kind of weird loophole in this law where I can still achieve this? Do I need to go talk to a city council member? I don't know. But there's usually another path or way around an obstacle. You just have to keep picking at it.
Oh, that is good, Kayla. That is so good. So with when you're thinking critically and you're asking yourself those questions, like, what can I do to get around this? Is there anything else that works for you to just, and I know you've had it since you've been young, right? Where you've had to creatively think, but is there anything else that you've noticed that really gets you to like go into that place of thinking of other ways around it?
Oh, it's so hard. And I'm not perfect at this. But not getting sucked into the negativity of I can't have my goal or I can't have my thing now because the path is blocked. That is hard, but I got to do anything to not get sucked into that, because that'll block all my thoughts on how to get around it. If I just keep thinking, oh, I can't have it now. So I'm take myself out to ice cream. Sometimes I take a break and go get coffee. I do whatever it takes to get me in a better mood. So I don't see no. I just see, okay, what do I have to do now to get around it?
Yeah. So it sounds like you're focused on the next step and not so much future tripping into all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many of my friends who are successful fail multiple times at things that they needed to do. Good friend of mine failed the bar twice, and every time just got back up and kept thinking of ways around it. Like, okay, well, I didn't do well this time. I'm going to try a different bar prep class. Okay, I didn't pass this time. I'm going to try eating differently. I mean, he never got dragged down by the no and just kept trying to pick at it and find different ways to get around the problem. And eventually he passed and became an amazing attorney. So there's always a way around it. You just can't get bogged down in the, oh, I didn't, my path is blocked right now.
Oh yeah, that's so good. I'm loving these nuggets of I'm clipping that. That is so good. So the other thing I didn't have down, which I don't know, it's crazy to me that I didn't have this down, because I sold bookstore to door, right? 80 hours a week when I was in college. That was how I put myself through school.
Oh my God. Oh gosh. Okay, girl, you win.
No, it sounds like similar. You're just reminding me of like what of that. You're just reminding me of what that was like. And so it's just that work ethic, which I think is a muscle that you have to flex to build the work ethic. Because there you are busting your ass, like with your job and college and doing it all. And then it's almost like your law stuff was easy because you already had to flex those muscles when you're in college.
Yes. And I think the law stuff was also easy because I was that I just liked it more too. I mean, I did not like these general education classes that you have to take in order to get a degree. The upper div stuff was fun, but to me, the law is just so much more interesting. So that was also probably helpful, but mostly helpful was the fact that I got more than 5 hours of sleep and could attend classes.
And then it looks like and I don't know if this is risk assessment or what this is called, but we'll just say what it is. But the other piece is that concept of asking those questions, which is like what your boyfriend did in college, which is the why don't you? And then what you said to yourself before opening up the practice or buying the practice. If I fail on my face, I'll fall on my face, and then going through those scenarios, which that is a risk assessment, because you're making the uncertain certain. You're already saying, well, if this does go wrong, what is going to happen? you're going through all of that. And that's what then kind of moves you past fear.
Yeah, I think that's entirely true. I wouldn't say I'm very risk taking, actually. My law partner is very okay with risk. I'm really hung up on, can I make sure my staff gets paid, and can I support can I support my family is my big one that prevents me from taking bigger risks. But once I can assess that I'm going to cover my staff and make sure they're okay, and I can support my family who needs me, anything after that, is gravy. So that helps me in my risk assessment, is knowing what's super important for me to cover. And as long as I can cover that, then I can take that leap.
Totally. That's so good. So what do you think's been the hardest thing for you when it comes to doing the thing?
Not listening to, the hardest thing is putting or setting aside people who tell you you're making the wrong decision because it's the non-traditional decision. I care about what other people think. I care about other people. So unfortunately, that means I care about what they think. And everyone's got an opinion about everything. And and usually they come from a good place. The people saying things, it comes from a good place. I had a mentor tell me, why are you buying a duplex for this much money when you can buy a giant, home out in Vista that's twice as big on twice as much space for less money? Or, and it gets in your, that's just an example, but it gets in your head. You're like, wait, why? That's like the traditional thing, is to have like my single family home. Why aren't I doing that? Or I had a lot of people ask me why I didn't go into big law. Why didn't you go into big law? You can, it's a steady job. You don't have the ups and downs of running your own business. Like, you have more support staff. Why didn't you do that? It's prestigious. It gets in my head. Why didn't I do that? What's wrong with me? Why aren't I doing that? And it'll mess with my mind for a couple days. And then I got to ground myself and remind myself, because why am I not doing big law? Because I want flexibility. I want freedom. And I want to take the clients that I want to take. I don't want to take the clients somebody else tells me to take. Why did I buy the giant house out in Vista? Because I want passive income, and I want to make sure that I can care for my family. And I don't like Vista. I like living downtown. So that's why. That's why. But I'm not perfect, and it'll still take me a couple days of really questioning myself to reaffirm that I'm doing the thing that I want to do.
Oh, yeah. So good. What would you say is your biggest piece of advice for the listeners on doing the thing?
Ooh, this is so good. But I would say, make sure that you know what makes you happy before you even start pursuing the thing. And as you're pursuing it, check in with yourself and ask, all right, is this going to make me happy? Is this still going to make me happy? Because your goals and life experiences change, especially if your goal is like your thing is more long-term. And just constantly checking in with yourself to make sure you're still on the path you want to be on. I know this is kind of out of left field because we didn't talk about it before, but it's really helped me. Is just, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I want, so I constantly have to check in with myself. Do I still like the law? Do I still want to be here? Do I still want to be owning my own firm, or do I want to get out? And my answer is always yes, yes, yes. I love my firm. I love my clients. I love my staff. Okay, it's a yes. Maybe someday it won't be, and then I got to reassess, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that that was your biggest piece of advice, Kayla, because when I started this podcast, it was, all about doing the thing, like, let's.
Yeah.
And then as it got going, I realized like, I don't want people to do the thing out of like, distraction or avoiding or comparing themselves to others. I really want it, since I'm now like bringing people to people. I want to make sure they're doing it out of alignment for themselves. And you just verbalized that so well.
Yeah, sometimes your goals change as your life changes or your thing changes, right? And it's okay to not do, it's great to do it, but as soon as that's not it doesn't fit into your life and doesn't bring you joy, it's okay not to do it too.
So good. So is there anything that I did not ask you that you wish I asked you?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I think we covered so much. I guess we didn't really get to talk about my experience in Italy, like living in Italy amongst all these crazy artists who were actually all doing their thing. And I kind of stepped into their world, which was pretty amazing. But that's a story for that's a story for another time.
Oh man, now I'm so curious.
Oh, I lived with a crazy French girl in Florence, and it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. But yeah, she was doing her own thing at age 19, and I have so much respect for her. Artists listen to themselves, and I think that's part of it. They don't let other people really get into their head that much because they're already so outside the box that they just have accepted that from themselves. But it was a good experience to be around people who really just they're just doing their own thing, and they don't care about what anyone says to the contrary.
Yeah, that had to be amazing just to be part of that experience and get to see a whole nother brain working, in that way.
Yes, it honestly was the best experience of my life. I am so grateful for everyone who encouraged me to do it and helped me get there, to see that side of people and meet different people and have an entirely different experience was great. But when I came back, I was just so grateful that I was allowed to do it. It made me look at humanity and feel faith in them again, I guess, that everyone encouraged me to do it and was so nice and so supportive. And everyone I met there was so nice and so supportive. I came back thinking, okay, I know the political situation in the US is pretty dire, but I still have faith in humanity.
That's so good. Well, how about you share with the listeners where they can learn about you, and then talk more about your law firm and all the things that you do there too.
Yes, you can. I am on LinkedIn, but I also have a website, usipattorneys.com. You can find my contact information there. And I don't have any social media, actually. It was a conscious choice to never have it. So you can't find me on social media other than LinkedIn and my firm's website.
That's so funny. I'm doing the same thing. I actually even did an episode with my, I have a holistic coach that I work with, and I did a whole episode on me, if I'm going to get on social media or not. And the answer was not yet.
Yeah.
So I'm also just on LinkedIn. So that's great.
Yeah. I have accounts that I have to use to keep track of infringers for my law firm, but nothing. So I know how they work. I'm not like, oh, I have no idea what the TikTok is. but I don't have anything personal.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, you're so cool. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm so grateful that you're able to take the time and do this with me today.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's a blast to chat with you, and I look forward to seeing you out in the real world soon for maybe happy hour.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thanks for listening to the Do the Thing podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, but even more, we hope you'll be inspired to do the thing. Do you have a burning question on doing the thing that you'd like answered? How about an inspiring do the thing story of your own that you'd like to share? We'd love to hear all about it. Just leave us a voice message at dothething.callcast.co or email us at hello@dothethingpodcast.com.